Alright guys, today we are going to be going on a little African safari. We've been talking about different places in Africa. So we're going to look and kind of review a couple things we did at the beginning of the semester and apply them to the continent of Africa. Okay, so to do this, we're going to look at Earth's grid system. We're going to look at latitude and longitude to locate key places and answer some questions about the place. Alright, so we're going to look at latitude and longitude, like I said, analyze some different maps dealing with Africa and the elevation and population. And then at the end, you're going to write a letter kind of compiling all the things that we have learned. Okay, so to get started, I want to kind of just review real quick latitude and longitude. Okay, remember you have our two starting points, the equator and the prime meridian. Okay, the equator is going to be, is it latitude or longitude? Which one? It's latitude. Okay, and the prime meridian is going to be longitude. Okay, and for the equator, you measure it. What do you do when it's 15 and this 15? It's going to be what? 15 degrees north or south. And then for the prime meridian, east and west. Okay, good. So I want to make sure you guys remember that. Alright, second thing we're going to do is look at using a distance scale. On a map, most of them that you're going to encounter will have a distance scale. On this map right here, your distance scale is right there. Okay, so if you wanted to measure where two places are, how would you go about doing that? Okay, you would probably want to use a sheet of paper and kind of mark where 0 is and 500 and then take that to measure your distances. You never want to just use your fingers as the guide, okay, because that's not accurate. If you had a ruler, you could use a ruler. Okay, but just like they did up here, they used a piece of paper to measure the two distances, okay? Alright, so today, like I said, we're going to go on a little bit of a safari. Alright, I'm going to hand these out to you and then I'm going to explain what you're going to do. To do this, you are going to need your textbook. You don't need it right at this moment. I just want you to listen. But in your book, you're going to use pages 472 to 477. That's all the maps that they have at the beginning of the unit. Right now, we're going to focus on the first three directions. Okay? The first one asks you to draw lines to mark the equator and prime meridian. So in your book, you're going to look at the map. You'll find the equator and the prime meridian, and you'll just kind of draw it on there. You might have to eyeball it a little bit. Okay? Then you are going to say, is more of Africa in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere? And is more of it in the eastern or western hemispheres? Okay? The second thing you're going to do is find the point where latitude and longitude meet. And you're going to draw an X there. Okay? After you draw that X, you'll tell me what ocean is surrounding it. Okay? And what is the nearest non-ocean body of water? Okay, so what would be an example of a non-ocean body of water? A river, a lake, a gulf, those types of things. Okay? It's got to be a body of water, but it's not going to be labeled ocean. And then number 3, from your X, you're going to measure east 475 miles and mark the dot with the X and tell me what country is like right in that area. Okay, I want you to work with a partner. Okay, you get with the people you usually work with. You're mainly going to use page 472 to do this. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to work on it. Then I'll get a couple people to come up here and mark it on the board. Alright, so I've had a couple people come mark some of the stuff for us already. We have labeled our equator, our prime meridian. What did you say for in terms of the hemispheres? Is more of Africa in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere? Emily? Which one? Northern? Okay, what about the other one? Eastern or western? Eastern. Eastern. Okay, so we have more of it is in the northern part and then in the eastern part. Okay? For number 2, it asks you to draw an X where the equator and the prime meridian intersect. That's right here. And Asia told us that that was in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? The other thing it asked you to find was the nearest non-ocean body of water. Alright? All right, Shay, what was that?
Gulf of
Guinea. The Gulf of Guinea, which is located right here. Okay? The Gulf of Guinea. All right? The third thing it asks you to do is go from the point that's marked X. Okay, and it wanted you to go east. Wanted you to go 475 miles east. Okay, whenever you did that, which direction did you go? Did you go this way? Did you go to the right or to the left? Right, you went this way. Okay, you went to the right. Okay, you're going to go to the right. And what was the nearest country to the spot 475 miles away?
Gabon.
Sao Tome and Principe. If you, I bet I know what you did. Did you measure in your book?
Yeah.
Or did you measure on the paper I gave you?
Book.
If you didn't measure in your book, it's going to be wrong. Okay, if you use the distance scale for the book for this map, will it match? No, because they're not the same scale. Okay, so if you got all the way to Gabon, that's because you didn't use a map with the right scale. Okay, you had to use the one in the book. You have to use the scale with the map that it's attached to, or your answers will be wrong. All right, for the next three. For the next three, you're going to have to look at different maps in your book. For number 4 and for number 6, you're going to have to look at the population density map. Okay? For number 5, you're going to have to look at the elevation map. All right? And for elevation, it's going to try and measure it in either feet or meters. Which one do you think we want to measure it in?
Feet.
Feet. Okay? That's what we want it to be in. All right? All right, so you can keep working with your partners. You're going to have to flip a couple pages to answer the next 3 questions. All right, make sure you answer all parts of the questions. Much finished? All right, so we are starting with number 4. Number 4 had you mark a dot at 10 degrees north and 20 degrees east. What country was that dot located? It's located in Chad, okay? Somewhere in this region right here is where you marked your dot. At the dot, you had to say how many people per square mile are living in this area. So how many people, Brant, did you find? 25 people per square mile. Is that a lot of people? No, it is not a lot of people at all. Okay? What direction did you have to travel from X to get to Chad?
Northeast.
So you had to go northeast to get there. And then the last part of, oh no, I didn't ask you that, but I wanted to ask you this. In terms of the population distribution, is 25 people per square mile, is that consistent throughout Africa, or is it more, is it less in other areas? How, more in some areas?
Yeah.
Do we have, would you say Africa is densely populated or sparsely populated?
Sparsely.
Sparsely populated, okay? What does that mean if it's sparsely populated? So you don't have a whole lot of people living in one area. They're kind of separated and spaced out, okay? Number 5, it asks you to go southeast until you reach Lake Victoria, okay, which is going to be right in here, okay? I want you to look at the elevation around the lake and tell us what exactly the elevation was at the coastline. All right, Jay?
1,640 feet.
1,640 feet. Okay, that is the elevation of Lake Victoria. Now the same, kind of like we did with the population. When you look around at the elevation of the different places in Africa, are the elevations similar, or is some areas a lot higher, some areas lower? How is it? And a lot?
It's mostly the same and lower.
Mostly the same, and some are lower. Okay. What about the elevation in Africa compared to our elevation here? Does anyone know how our elevation here is without having to look it up?
No.
Are we high above sea level?
No.
We're what?
Below.
We're kind of below sea level. Okay, so in Africa, this river is much higher off the ground than what we are here. Okay. remember when we talked about the other day, we said most of Africa has that escarpment, that cliff, and the elevation is lowest where? If you looked around Africa, where would you see the trend with the lowest elevation? Closest to what? To the ocean. So along the coastline of Africa is where you're going to have your lowest elevation. As you go in, it goes into more of a plateau. Okay? And number 6, actually labeled the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. In between these two lines is our tropics. Okay, our tropical region. Alright? And it's asked you, where is the majority of Africa's population found? So when you looked at the population density, where were those purples, those oranges? What kind of things were those located by? Huh? Big cities, water. What kind of water? The ocean or what?
Like rivers.
Rivers, okay? Lakes and rivers. And are these areas, excuse me, are these mainly in the tropics? Yes. Yes, they are. Okay? So the population is distributed mainly in the tropics along these bodies of water. Okay? Any questions about anything you're not sure about? In this tropical region along the equator, what's something that we'll find along the equator they have in Africa and other places? Dealing with the climate, being in the rainforest. Okay? A lot of rainfall. Yeah, if we were to look at the rainfall map, you would see a lot of rainfall in this area. Alright, so keep those things in mind as we go to the last thing we're going to do today. Just go back to your own desk because you're going to do this by yourself. Okay, we've kind of explored Africa. We've looked at some of the population distribution, the elevation of the area, its location in the tropics. And in the past, we've looked at the climate and some other physical attributes of the continent. You're going to write a letter, okay? And this is how you're going to do it, okay? You're going to pretend like you are an explorer and you just went and explored all over Africa, okay? You are going to be writing a letter back to your family in your home country. It doesn't have to be America. You can write to them wherever you want to be from, okay? You can choose. In your letter, you're going to talk about your journey through Africa. Okay, you're going to talk about its location, the elevation, the people, where they're living. Okay, all of these things you're going to want to address. Anything that we've learned so far, you can kind of maybe use it to mention in your letter, but make sure you focus on talking about how the people live or where they live, what it's like there based on the population, the elevation, the climate, those types of things. Alright, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to work on your letter, then I'm going to choose a couple people to share. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
How long does it have to be?
Long enough to answer all the questions. A good paragraph should be able to get it all in. A good 5 to 8 sentences, please.
Can I just sit here?
You can sit there, yeah. Read it loud so everyone can hear.
Dear Mom, I have enjoyed my time in Africa, but I think it is time to come home. Being here for 6 months changes you. Some people have seen animals and have been mauled. Our population has gotten smaller, getting killed and sick. The elevation sometimes makes me short of breath and my ears pop. The location I have been is in the tropics, dry and arid. Luckily, I have not gotten sick and starved. Being fed a lot more nowadays, but I miss being home with my family in my comfy bed.
Africa's location, elevation, and population density are very different from those in the United States. I have journeyed through Madagascar. Most of the region is very tropical. Because animals call majority of Madagascar home, much of this area is sparsely populated by people. The elevation is higher here than it is in the United States. Most of Madagascar is located above the Tropic of Capricorn.
Latitude and longitude, something we've seen a bunch of times through this semester. All right, any questions about the population or the elevation distribution in Africa? All right, then you can pass up your letters. Make sure your name is on the top.